All right, guys, in the last video, we talked about gowning, and we said, listen, this is a very complicated thing, especially if you watch the external video that demonstrated how to gown for an aseptic environment. So it's all about a process. It's all about doing the steps in the right way. It's all about being very, very careful so that way you do not contaminate your own self as you are putting on these garments and as you are gowning up for the day before you actually go into the production environment and do something, whatever that something might be. So if you watch that external video, great, good job. You're going to see that information later in the module quizzes and the test. But if you've not watched that video, now's not too late. So please go and watch that. At least if you're going to watch any external video, watch that one. So this is going to give you an idea of all of the meticulousness that has to go on inside of these working environments to make sure that we keep those environments clean, to make sure that we keep them very sterile. No microorganisms at all can be around us as we work, because those can get transferred to the products, and we do not want those in the products. We do not want them into the containers. We do not want them into the packaging. So we're going to try to be as careful as we can as we're producing these drug products. Well, okay, enough about me, enough about you, enough about the dirty trash cans that we are. There's other things that can contaminate these areas as well. And these are all of the tools and all of the equipment that we are using, of course, that can bring contamination into the picture. So anything that moves in and out of production is going to have to undergo the same scrutinization as we do when we go into those rooms. So any type of tool, any type of bottle, any type of thing that we are working with throughout the daily routine of the work job, all of those are going to have to be sterile. They're going to have to not have any microorganisms at all on them. So we're going to have to process them. We're going to have to test them. We're going to have to take them through an SOP so that way they are not contaminating the areas that we are working in. So anything that moves into a production area is considered a risk. And there's things that we do to minimize those risks. And one of those is you're seeing in the picture right now. And this is something that we call a pass-through. So this is built into the wall. That's what you're seeing here. And there's a door onto the side that faces me. And then there's actually a door on the other side as well. So what would normally happen in this type of situation is that I want to transfer an item from one room into the next room. And maybe I don't need to open up a door in order to go through, because that is more of a wider opening and there's more chances of me accidentally contaminating those areas. So we have these pass-throughs that can be installed into these facilities. And what would happen is that on my side, I would open the door up, and I would put this item, it was supposed to be clean, but I would put the item into that pass-through and I would shut the door back. And then it can be treated, it can be autoclaved, something can happen inside of these pass-throughs. And then on the other side, they have another door, so that way they can open their side up and ensure that, sure enough, these things are completely clean, they've just been sterilized, they've just been treated, and they have went through this process of cleanliness, so that way I can use them on my side if I'm working in a cleaner area. So rules and controls are established to put these things like pass-throughs in these facilities in order to manage these materials a little bit better and streamline it a little bit better to reduce, again, the idea of cross-contamination that can happen on a bigger result. So first, we're going to establish dedicated areas to minimize the movements. Second, we've got to wipe down all the materials and equipment that's coming into the facility. Third, these materials can generate particulates. So any of those materials that do that, aka cardboard, that's why this is an example, cannot go further into the production areas. And you could require airlocks or pass-throughs that are going to be deemed appropriate and required in order to transfer these materials from one location to the next. All right. Now, when I say wipe down, very often we're using isopropyl alcohol. That is the abbreviation for IPA. Isopropyl alcohol. So isopropyl and then the word alcohol. This is known to you as rubbing alcohol. Rubbing alcohol in a store is about 70% most of the time. Sometimes it's a little lower, sometimes it's a little higher, but 70% is a pretty kind of standard concentration for IPA. So you probably came in contact with IPA before. You just didn't know that that was like a legit thing that we use in a lab, but it is. But IPA can go higher than 70%, of course. So we can go 90% and greater for IPAs, of course, if we are ordering IPA from a chemical supplier. And that job could do maybe a little bit better than something, a weakened down version like a 70% that's sold to you as a consumer. So IPA and peroxide are, and that's hydrogen peroxide, by the way, the stuff that you buy in the store in a brown bottle, absolutely, that's 3%. But with peroxides, sometimes we can go higher than 3%, and sometimes these peroxides can go anywhere between 5 to 8%, give or take a little bit. So these peroxides will do the same job that the peroxide at home is doing for you. They destroy cell walls, they get rid of bacteria, they get rid of infection. Great cleaners, great kind of stuff that I can use to wipe down surface areas, of course it is, but it's going to be a little bit stronger than what they sell you in a store. And again, we want it to be a little bit stronger because we want to ensure absolutely as much stuff as can be involved is going to be killed, and it's going to be sanitized for us, not only on our work surface areas, but any type of bottle, any type of instrument, any type of tool that I'm using in that kind of production area. Those always have to be sterilized and sanitized as well in some kind of format, in some type of form. So wipe down everything, including equipment, as we go cleaner and cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. Materials that generate particulates, this cardboard kind of stuff, absolutely. All of those packing materials are not allowed in these aseptic environments. And the reason is because if you've ever worked with cardboard, you see fluff that comes out from that cardboard. And that fluff is particulates, and those particulates might not be living, but those are still particulates that we do not want in these areas. So because of that, we got to minimize it. And the way that we minimize it, we're just not allowing it in there. So any of those types of packing materials, they have to stay out. They cannot make themselves up until a point to the facility, yes, but after a certain point, there's a no-no. We cannot allow those types of packing materials to venture on any further at all. These, excuse me. These areas, I just spread it germs, I just spread it microorganisms. These tools or these instruments that we are using, whether it's a bottle, whatever the case might be, sometimes they are double wrapped, and if they are multiple wrapped in layers, the nice thing about this is that on the inside they could be very sterile. And then what would happen is that as they venture closer and closer into the aseptic areas, we can actually take the outer layer packaging off, and that will expose this new layer underneath that has not came in contact with microorganisms or any type of particulates as we have traveled and progressed throughout the facility. And then in certain areas, that second layer or that third layer of packaging can slowly get removed and removed and removed. And then that way, the item that I need to use, by the time it reaches these really super clean areas, by the time that we take off that very last layer of packaging, that has not came in contact with any type of source of contamination at all. So multiple and layer wrapped items are okay and encouraged if we want to speed this process up, and if we do not want to accidentally contaminate the areas that we are working in. Another kind of thing that can happen here are autoclaves, and autoclaves are coming in different sizes and different forms, absolutely. So we've got big autoclaves that can sit on floors, we've got tiny autoclaves that can sit on countertops, we've got floor models that basically sit on a stand that is very convenient to me as far as the door and how it opens. Autoclaves, again, many different options, many different variations that are out there, but autoclaves is the idea of sanitation. So I want you to go back and think about previous modules that we've talked about so far, and the idea is to get them to 121 degrees. The idea is get them to a certain pressure, for instance 16 psi, and to hold them there for so many number of minutes. Let's just say that is what the SOP tells me to do. That in a sense is kind of autoclaving, because this is the same concept, but they're going to be a little bit smaller, and these are meant for the tools or the extras that I've got to be working with in those production environments. So not necessarily like big pieces of equipment, but again, I can put everything from a little petri dish on the inside of the autoclaves. I can put some type of stirring rod or spatula inside of the autoclaves. So things that are very small, things that are very tiny can easily go in here. Glassware that we're using can go into the autoclaves. Again, the purpose of the autoclave is to just completely kill as much microorganism as it can and to sterilize the items that we are using for this part of the production. So aseptic production, it is all about zero microbes, right? So we need sterile materials to work with if we are in those environments. And those sterile materials are coming from with the help of things like autoclaves, that will do that for us. So very often, again, these autoclaves can have 2 windows. Absolutely. So if I get a item in my area and I'm not as clean, then I can put those items into something like those pass-throughs that we've talked about. So those pass-throughs could actually be autoclaves as well. So I can put the items inside of something that looks like that, and then we heat it up and we increase the pressure, and all the microbes basically get killed out through the autoclave that we have built into the system like this. And then when that autoclave system kind of goes full cycle, and when things cool down on the other side, that person that's working in a cleaner environment can open that door up, reach in and grab these sterile items, and then begin to use them. So it is, again, one way that we can transfer materials from one area to the next and help prevent contamination that will go with the transport of those materials from one room to the next. So airlocks are going to be great for those types of things. Again, airlocks, once more, all about differential pressure. So pushing out, keeping things out of those clean room environments with the help of just flow and pressure. That's all that it's about. So this is the idea. These materials have to undergo, once more, the same scrutinization that I have to go through. If I am taking leaps and bounds to make sure that I am not contaminating those areas, then we need to do the same thing with the materials and the tools that we use in those production environments. Absolutely, that's what we've got to do. Qualification is also a thing for facilities. So when maybe an inspector comes on board and when they begin to kind of look at the processes that go on, what are you doing as an employee? Do they see any violations that's going on? I mean, think of like health inspectors. The same thing happens there, right? Health inspectors are going to come in and everybody goes, health inspectors, everybody straighten up, pretend like you know what you're doing. And then the health inspectors come in and they take a look and they write up a report and they say, no, this is your score and you better fix this by the time that we get back. Okay, FDA auditors are going to be similar. So they're going to come in and they're going to take a look at how these people are doing their jobs to make sure that they have the proper training, they know what they're doing, they know why they're doing what they're doing, and that's all part of the qualification piece that these facilities have to go through. So under qualification, these laboratories will be visited. Absolutely, they will be, and you need to demonstrate that you can actually do the job. So are you familiar with your job? Do you know exactly what you're supposed to do? Have you been given the proper training? And they can ask you questions and interrogate you a little bit on what you're doing. With this process, environmental monitoring is also going to be included and required. So what that means is that we're going to be using those instruments that's going to be pumping air through it, and it's going to be taking a look. Oh, my voice is going. I've recorded too many videos. So they're pulling air samples through and they're analyzing these air samples and they're telling us particulate count. We've got these petri dishes that we can put on these air pulls that we can kind of take things through to see if any kind of microbial growth begins to happen. So again, environmental monitoring. Those are just 2 examples of the monitoring that we're supposed to be doing. They're going to want to see those. They're going to see the reports of those, the results of those, and so forth. And then again, no changes. Unless a formal change happens within the company, no changes can actually happen in these production areas. Everything from construction, adding, removing equipment, where utilities are entering a room, changing, cleaning the agents, modifying the procedures, changing alarm settings, all of those are going to be part of the qualification of these areas and of the facilities that I'm working within. So all of those are going to be important. I need to keep all of those things in mind, because without these types of things going on, getting logged, getting documented, getting filed, then we are in violation of various rules and procedures that are in CFR and that are kind of recommended and required by the FDA, which is, of course, who we have to answer for. Media for aseptic operation. Again, when I am working in a production area and these things are going to get cleaned, it is not uncommon for us to take swabs of various parts of that production step. And those swabs are going to be placed on Petri dishes. They're going to go into, of course, agar or auger and nutrient broth. And they're going to go into incubators and they're going to grow cultures. We hope they don't grow cultures, but if they do grow cultures, we're going to have to report that. So is everything good? We've got to check it. And that's one of the ways that we check it. So sterile growth media, and then we go in and we just swab everything and we put them in. We look at the results a couple of days later. And if they stay clear, if I don't see any colony growth at all, then this is great news for me, because that clears me out and I can say, listen, not only have we decontaminated, not only have we cleaned, but there's zero microbes because we've tested it. Here's proof in the pudding. So please open us up for production and we can start making product yet again. Very often they will do this more than once. So they will go through and they'll swab and incubate, swab and incubate, swab and incubate. Of course, this is going to be kind of some downtime. Depending on how the facility is made, this could be some downtime on some product. And we're waiting on test results. We're waiting to see what happens. And we hope that it does clear. We do it more than once. And the reason is because if we only do it once, we could just get lucky. And we do not want that type of situation to take place. So we like to double and triple check our work, and very often that's why we do those types of things and those types of tests more than one time, whatever type of test that might be. We like to have more than one data point to go off of. All right. Okay, so in the next section, we're going to talk about more facility layouts and the flows and what has to happen. We're going to go into a little bit more detail about some of these types of situations, but that's what section 7.6 is going to focus on. So that's going to wrap up 7.5, and I think that was quite a bit of information, actually, than maybe what you did not expect. So 7.5 was all about how do we control contamination, and now we know we control contamination by gowning the proper way, by looking at the facility to see how it's organized, to see how pressurized the system in the rooms are to keep dirty air out of cleaner rooms. We talked about autoclaves, sterilization, cleaning. All of these types of things are going to be required in order to keep that production area super clean, nice and tidy. And that's the way that we like it. So in 7.6, we're going to go and take a closer look at the layout of the facilities and more about the flows and the ins and the outs of that area. So stay tuned. Come back. Enjoy the show. Again, we don't have too much left over. Hopefully we can get these kicked out in a couple of videos. We'll see how much I babble though. And that could be another 100 videos, knowing me.